video is gonna be a concealer showdown between the new Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Concealer and the new Milk Makeup Future Fluid All Over Medium Coverage Hydrating Concealer. I've got a sample of the Charlotte Tilbury in the shade 4 Fair, and I have a full size of the Milk Makeup in 8C. I'm also gonna be swatching these bad boys next to every other concealer I own so you can see how the colors compare. I feel like this is the year of concealers, and honestly, I'm here for it. I've zoomed you in, and now we're gonna start on this eye with the Milk Makeup Future Fluid All Over Medium Coverage Hydrating Concealer. This is $29 and it has 30 shades. It claims to be hydrating, have a medium coverage, a natural finish, a liquid formula, and it doesn't have any silicones. This also claims to be lightweight and crease proof, so let's see if the claims are true. It comes with this kind of cone-shaped applicator, and what I do want to say is it does oxidize a little bit, so the color will darken just a few seconds after you apply it. Again, I have the shade 8C, and with this concealer, having worn it just a couple of times, I think something I would say is it definitely does have a natural finish, although I would say that it sets down a little bit more matte than I was expecting. I've noticed that when I wear this, my eyes look a little bit dry throughout the day, so I tried to prep my eyes with a little bit more eye cream. So this is what one layer looks like. If you're going for more of like, you know, a light medium coverage, I would say that is the amount of product that you'd want to use. And looking at my mirror, you know, I feel like it doesn't even really look like makeup to me. You know, it's got that medium to full coverage finish, so I am gonna build it up since I prefer full coverage, but I really like that it doesn't have a wet looking finish. I find that a lot of times concealers with a dewy finish, they think that that's actually flattering and it's reflecting light, but I find that actually because I have volume loss under my eyes and that's why I have darkness, sometimes any kind of light reflection can almost emphasize that. So I do prefer something a little bit more on the matte side. I just want to make sure that it doesn't emphasize any dryness, and right now it's not. So let's build it up a little bit more. This one is also fragrance and essential oil free, which I love. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more to see how much coverage we can really get without it being like too much makeup. And one thing I'll say about the shade range, I do also have 6C with me that I purchased, but I haven't opened it because I think this color 8C is my absolute perfect match. And you know, when you open a product and you use it from Sephora, if you return it, it goes right in the trash. And I don't want to contribute to any more waste than I already contribute to. So as much as I would like to swatch 6C for you, I'm gonna return that to Sephora so that they can sell that to someone else. Okay, so while I let this kind of settle in and set, I just wanted to call out some of the ingredients. It has hyaluronic acid to smooth and hydrate the skin. It has something called Defensil and Revival, which support and protect the skin barrier. It also has caffeine, aloe vera, and arnica that help to brighten and smooth. I also think arnica and aloe vera kind of soothe the skin as well, so that's great. This concealer is also gluten-free, cruelty-free, and vegan. Now, the Milk Makeup Future Fluid Concealer claims to be crease-proof, and I just don't think that that's possible in any kind of base product because our skin moves, our skin creases, and any makeup that's on top of it is just naturally gonna move. So for me, I always roll my eyes when a concealer claims to be crease proof. Maybe it creases less than other formulas, and that's for sure with this one, but don't buy something thinking it's actually gonna be crease proof under the eyes. Like, our skin moves. It's just not possible to be 100% crease proof. So my expectations, you know, are very realistic for that. It's barely, if I go like that, you see my lines? I feel like it's barely settling into lines. It looks really nice. So for the creasing, it's good. It just might be a little bit drying as it wears, so we're gonna test that later. Moving on to the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Medium to Full Coverage Radiant Concealer with Hyaluronic Acid. This is $33, so a little bit more expensive than Milk Makeup, and it comes in 30 shades. This also claims to be medium coverage but buildable. It claims to have a radiant finish, whereas the Milk had a natural finish. It's also a liquid formula, and it has hyaluronic acid, niacinamide, and golden vitamin C. Now that's something interesting for me. I have to avoid vitamin C, especially under my eyes. For example, the Dior concealer that came out recently, the Backstage one, had vitamin C and fragrance, and that gave me a chemical burn. So I may have to proceed with caution on this one. Sometimes vitamin C can be a little bit irritating. This concealer also claims to be waterproof and have 16-hour wear. So I have the shade 4 Fair, which is a little bit too light for me. I honestly like something that matches my face a little bit more. I find that when you have a lighter concealer under the eyes, it's very 2012. It's very much, you know, that kind of glam, bright look. But I think it is a match enough that we're gonna be okay here. So right off the bat, I think it has a bit of a thicker consistency than the Milk Makeup, like a creamy, thick consistency. That's not something that I mind. My all-time favorite concealer is the Fit Glow concealer, and that is thick. And I love it because it stays in place. So we'll see if I have the same experience with this one. One thing I wanted to say is when it claims it has a radiant finish, I don't think it's radiant in the way that it feels. So actually, let me put them on my fingers and kind of feel the texture so I can describe it a little bit more accurately for you. Okay, I totally switched hands here. Milk is over here and Charlotte Tilbury's over here, but just for comparison purposes, as I feel the concealers, the Milk one is so thin. It feels barely there. The Charlotte Tilbury feels like a thicker cream. So it just kind of depends what you want. Do you like something that's super thin and just blends right out but still has coverage? Or do you like something that's a little bit thicker, feels a little bit more hydrating? The concealer claims to be medium to full coverage, and we're definitely not at the full coverage level, so I'm going to apply a little bit more, see if we can get there. One of the things I wanted to point out is you can't really see it when it's on my under eyes, but hopefully you'll be able to see when I swatch this on my hand. The Charlotte Tilbury concealer contains a lot of light reflecting particles. I haven't looked at the ingredients list yet. It might be mica, it might be something else, but when I look at it on my hand, it's like almost sparkly, but not in a way that looks like sparkles on the under eyes. It's just something you can see on the hand. There's the concealer, and I don't know if you can see that kind of shimmery quality. It's very subtle. You can't see the particles, but there's that kind of light reflection. And I think when you compare the eyes, you can see this side, the Milk side, looks a lot more matte. And it says it has a natural finish. I would actually argue the Milk has more of a soft matte finish. It feels almost completely dry to the touch, whereas my foundation that I'm wearing is the discontinued Makeup Forever Invisible Cover Foundation. This is a natural finish. It feels like bouncy skin, whereas the Milk feels quite a bit more dry. So I think it is showing a little teensy bit more texture, but this concealer, I think because of the radiance, is emphasizing the hollowness under my eyes. When I look in the viewfinder, maybe I'll zoom you in a little bit more. We are real close and personal now. I added a touch more of the Milk concealer, so they're the same coverage level right now. I hope that you can see, as I look in the viewfinder, the Milk makeup side looks a lot more flat. It looks more matte. You're not really seeing the hollows of my eyes more, even though these have the exact same coverage. And that's why light reflection and formulas play such a big role in the way that dark circles look. Because over here, that radiance, those light reflecting particles that are coming through, I actually find are really unflattering on my skin, on hollow under eyes, on texture. I don't know why people seem to include these shimmery particles to be more blurring on the skin, because for me, it looks, at least in my viewfinder, not in looking at the footage right now, but it looks like, see how that is just popping more? The Milk is a tiny bit drying. It's pretty creaseless, which is fantastic. I don't think it's emphasizing texture. It just doesn't have that kind of bounciness that I look for. But I'm gonna withhold my judgment and we're gonna do a full wear test. So this is the last shot before I do a check-in in a few hours. If I go like this, I think you can see Charlotte Tilbury is creasing a little bit more. Milk makeup looks a little bit more matte. This is kind of a little bit unflattering here. So let's see how these wear throughout the day. So here are concealer swatches on my arm. Keep in mind, my arm is a lot lighter than my face, so these look quite dark. but they're pretty great matches on my face. So from top to bottom, at the top we have Fit Glow C2.5, which is my favorite concealer. The next one is Dior Cool Rosy, ColourPop Pretty Fresh in Light 40N. The fourth is the NYX Serum Concealer in Vanilla. The fifth is Coolfy Ice Ice Berry. The kind of matte looking yellow one is Maybelline's Activewear Concealer in 15. The next is Beauty Pie Ivory. The second from the last is Milk Makeup Future Fluid in 8C. And the last is Charlotte Tilbury's Beautiful Skin Concealer in 4 Fair. So up close, we have Fit Glow C2.5. The second is Dior, I think it's 2 Cool Rosy. The third here is actually my best face shade match, not under eyes, but it's the ColourPop Pretty Fresh in Light 40N. The fourth one is the NYX Serum Concealer in Vanilla, the Coolfy Concealer in Ice Ice Berry. Underneath, we have the Maybelline Activewear Concealer in 15. The lightest one, I think, is the Beauty Pies Concealer in Ivory. Then Milk Makeup Future Fluid in 8C. And lastly, Charlotte Tilbury's Beautiful Skin Concealer in 4 Fair. Woof! Okay, it's been several hours. It's obviously nighttime now. I'm looking a little oily through the T-zone. I have not touched up my concealer. I haven't patted out any lines. I haven't added any more. And I have not powdered my face today. So let's zoom you in. Okay, so first let's talk about creasing. I think crease-wise, they look great. Not really dealing with any creasing, settling, any of the product moving around. The one area where I think the Milk makeup looks a little bit worse is that throughout the day, as you know, I make expressions and my face moves and I smile, I do think the concealer settled into lines. I wouldn't consider that creasing. Creasing to me is when you do that and you can see all of the product like gathered, like it creases. This more is just that because of that more matte finish, you can see the lines of my face a little bit more, whereas the Charlotte Tilbury, it looked a little softer on my under eyes. So I think it just depends what you care about more. And now I'm gonna do a voiceover because I disagree with what I was saying on camera. In person, it did look like the Milk makeup had better coverage at the end of the day, but on the camera, it just doesn't look like that. And so I'm gonna do a second wear test after this clip so we know for sure how the Milk makeup concealer wears, because that little inner part that I'm pointing to right there looks so much darker, but it looks like I may have just like touched my face and accidentally removed that concealer without knowing it. So I'm gonna test it again and we'll check back in and see how it looks. So I've had the Milk makeup concealer on for 3 hours. I haven't added any more. I haven't tapped it out. I haven't powdered. So let me zoom you in. Compared to the previous clip, I think that this is wearing a lot better. I don't know if maybe in the last one I accidentally like touched my eye and it lifted the concealer. Definitely not the most long-lasting concealer I've ever tried. I'd say probably the Fit Glow concealer is the most long-lasting for me. But in terms of texture and dryness, 3 hours in, looking pretty good, can't really complain. Okay, it's been 6.5 hours since I applied the Milk makeup concealer and I feel like that's good enough for a final check-in. Honestly, I think we're looking pretty good, but I'll zoom you in. So I can see it definitely did lose a little bit of coverage under my eyes, but also what's contributing to that is my eyeliner kind of smudged under my eyes a little bit, so that might make it look darker than it is. But there is certainly some coverage that wore off here. After 6.5 hours though, I'm not too concerned about that because on a normal day when I'm not doing a wear test, I would be reapplying concealer as needed. So really it doesn't bother me. It's not as long lasting and it's not as hydrating and kind of skincare-y like my favorite Holy Grail concealer, the Fit Glow concealer. But for a soft matte, medium to full coverage concealer from Sephora that really matches me well, I'm super happy. So my final thoughts on the concealers are as follows. I think the Charlotte Tilbury actually kind of sticks a little bit better and holds the coverage throughout the day more than the Milk makeup. I think just because it's a tackier, creamier, thicker consistency, it's naturally just gonna stick a little bit more than something that's really lightweight. The Charlotte Tilbury concealer is more like if you mixed the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless filter with a concealer, so it does have that metallic kind of finish. You have to really go into it knowing that you're gonna want that. I think the Charlotte Tilbury concealer is better if you have fine lines or dryness. It looked really good on my lines after about 8 hours of wear, did not accentuate dryness whatsoever. However, the Milk Makeup Concealer is better if you have dark circles or any kind of hollowness, because the Charlotte Tilbury kind of accentuated that hollowness under my eyes, but the Milk Makeup really made it look nice and flat and covered. The Milk Makeup did accentuate the sort of crow's feet that I have around my eyes because it is a drier consistency, but I like that it had a little bit more coverage. I thought it had more of a soft focus kind of effect under the eyes. It totally just depends on what you're looking for. So for me personally, my vote is the Milk Makeup because my under eye concern is darkness and hollowness. But if you have more mature skin or if you don't have hollow under eyes, then I think the Charlotte Tilbury is probably my vote just because it looks better on lines. Okay, I think that was about as thorough as I could possibly be for this video. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please let me know in the comment section or by giving it a thumbs up. I hope you'll subscribe, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one.